Good morning, and I want to say, first of all, thank you for being here to the media. Greatly appreciated. Yesterday was a difficult day in the Clark County School District. When you have an accident with the bus and students, it's obviously a scary situation, very difficult. Thankfully, all the students on that bus who attended Bailey Middle School are okay. They've been sent home. But again, our condolences to the family, the loss of life in the vehicle involved with the bus. Our condolences to that family and my personal condolences as well. I want to take an opportunity to thank the first responders. I think that yesterday that we had great support from our school police, great leadership. We want to thank CCSD Emergency Management. We also want to thank Metro, Highway Patrol, Clark County Fire, Las Vegas Fire, paramedics. Just a huge thank you, because the first response was, in my opinion and many opinions of our team, phenomenal. I also want to say thank you to our transportation department. This is probably things that you always worry about this happening as a transportation division, leaders in transportation, but the staff was wonderful. They were responsive, and they were there for students and families. I also want to say thank you to internally. We had counseling services that went out to Bailey to assist other students who maybe at the time didn't know what was going on, but our counseling services that were deployed to Bailey Middle School, the leaders on those campuses, the teachers. We had several school principals who actually left their schools during the day to go help out at Bailey as leaders of that school, Bailey Middle School particularly. The principal went to the hospital to assist families and wait on the status of students who were being observed by medical professionals. I want to thank Lowe's. Lowe's was great during this event, where they stepped up, helped us with having a on-site shade structure, among many other things. And then I think that I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to the students. We can only imagine what was in their mind as this incident was transpiring. It took seconds, but the fear that they must have felt at that time, the disbelief perhaps, what was going to happen to them. I think that our students were phenomenal. They exited safely, they were calm, they were orderly, and I was very proud even yesterday when one of the students was interviewing with a media outlet, just stayed very calm and came across as, obviously that fear that was in that moment, but also the care and compassion for the other students. The bus driver, we have to give great kudos and commendation to the bus driver. Bus driver was affected during that incident. Obviously a bus being flipped over, being trapped herself, and getting out and assisting students. I want to thank personally the bus driver. But again, I want to thank everyone who assisted yesterday. The community really stepped up in a tough situation where, again, our students are okay that were on that bus. Again, the condolences to the family with the other vehicle. But we just want to say thank you, because the community really stepped up to assist and help the families, the students, and Clark County School District employees. I'd like to now introduce Captain Ken Young with School Police. He'll provide some additional details, but again, thank you for being here today.
Good morning. Yesterday, you had an opportunity to see all of the first responders coming together. We trained throughout the years for incidents like this, so you saw a great example of unified command on yesterday. Didn't matter what uniform you wore yesterday, our main goal was to ensure that we could account for every student. We thank you all from our media partners that you all came out and you did responsible reporting on yesterday. We thank you all for that. Yesterday morning, you saw kids that sprung into action. You saw passerbys, you saw community members that came out to support and assist. Everybody's main concern was to make sure that the kids were safe. And at the end of the day, when we were to account for 100% for all of our kids, that means that we did our job well. So we thank everybody that acted on yesterday. You've heard about all the community partners. You've heard about all of the law enforcement and first responder partners that came out. So yesterday was just a great effort, great example of a unified command situation. We sent our condolences out once again to the family that suffered a loss and then also major injury. At this time, the investigation is still under Las Vegas Metropolitan's command. At some point, they will release their findings. So today, there's nothing that we can add to the actual investigation at this point. So once again, thank you all for participating with us. Thank you all for all that you do. At this time, I'm going to introduce Shannon.
Good morning. My name is Shannon Evans, and I am lucky enough to be the Transportation Director of the Clark County School District. 24 years ago, I started my career behind the wheel of a bus. Today, I want to talk to you about what goes into driver safety, but I'm going to be talking to you from a very personal and emotional stance. So I'm going to apologize in advance if I kind of get choked up, because it's very easy for myself and a lot of the supporting team for the drivers to know exactly how this driver felt at that moment of the accident. The first words out of this driver's mouth were my students, my children. And that's not because of luck. That's because every person behind the wheel of a bus wants to be there. They do what they have to do to ensure that they're doing the right thing, and they do the right thing as much as they possibly can. Over here, I'm just gonna jump over here and grab my stuff real quick. The school bus industry is highly regulated. We don't wing it. We don't make it up as we go. We follow and comply with federal mandates, state mandates, local mandates, and district mandates. Our training program is 14 consecutive days for a reason. We grow that program every day. Incidents like today will be used to continue to further grow our training program and our driver awareness. You have federal mandates. As a commercial driver, they must drug test. They must pass DOT physicals. There's very stringent medical requirements for every person behind the wheel of the bus. Besides that, we work very closely with the Department of Ed. They develop a statewide school bus driver training handbook that is approximately 500 plus pages long. Every single page relates to student safety. And every single page is taught to our drivers, and every drivers take that and do their very best to implement it. What you've seen yesterday was a driver following procedure. The students were trained on how to get out of that bus, and I believe that that was a huge contributing factor to today, in which we can say that all those students are healthy, and it may take a little while, but we will build their trust to get back on that school bus. This is called a student transportation education plan. This is what the drivers use to teach and educate their students about school bus safety. It talks about what each of the rules are, and even goes into emergency evacuation drill and why it's important to have assigned seats, why it's important to track your kindergarten students. We don't wing this. We make every effort possible that if a parent trusts their child on a school bus, we will do our very best to keep them safe. The school bus. I know a lot of you have been reporting on the school bus being the safest mode of transportation. Well, it starts with how that bus is built. Every child, for lack of a better term, is in a roll cage. This bus, the bus yesterday, is designed to take an impact. It's not by chance. There's federal mandates that require every safety component, every strut, every reinforced steel component on that bus. This is part of why school buses are the safest mode of transportation. The other part is who we put behind the wheel of that bus. Like I said, it's a 14-day program, and because you start that program does not mean that you end up transporting students. We have a 60% success rate. Yes, we have driver vacancies, but my staff and I are dedicated to making sure that we just don't put somebody that's okay behind the wheel of a bus. Our golden rule is, if we don't feel comfortable with that person transporting our student, that person will transport nobody's child. The driver is a 13-and-a-half-year driver. She's skilled, she's experienced, she's knowledgeable. She is what we call an extra board driver. She has the skill and ability to be able to give in any route direction and be able to negotiate that route and provide services for students. What we define as an accident, I just want to start there too, because if I say yes, she's had a minor accident 7 years ago. What we define as an accident is any time a school bus makes contact with a fixed object. So whether it's a construction barrel, a curb, a pole, mirror tap, that driver is required to call that in as an accident. So with 22 million miles that we do every year, sometimes minor things happen. And with 13-and-a-half-years of experience, she has had one minor accident.
You can't go any further as it relates to that specific driver and her driving history at this time.
Currently, 100% of our buses that transport students with disabilities have cameras. About 40 to 50% of our gen ed buses are equipped with cameras. That is a standard equipment that we purchase buses with. So we believe over the next 5 years, we will have 100%, all 100% of our buses will have cameras. So currently, there is a bill in session. If that passes, just like Clark County always does, we will immediately comply with that bill. The way that the buses are currently designed, and this design has been a tried and proven design, at this point, our buses meet every safety standard and every Nevada statute that is out there.
A lot of people argue that.
I think it depends on the position of the child, and we can play what if all day long. And I hate to do that because I don't want to give the public perception one way or the other that we're pro or against. We are going to apply with federal regulations. And if the bill passes and it's a requirement in the state of Nevada, we will do our very best to train our drivers, train our students, and get those seatbelts on the buses.
Yesterday on that bus, you know,
That would be a part of the investigation. They are looking at every exit that was used on yesterday, how it was used, and why it was used.
and the kids acted as their initial training program.
Okay, so the initial training program I said was 14 days. That initial training program consists of 35 hours of behind the wheel training and 40 hours of classroom training. Just to give a little bit of history, Nevada statute only requires 10 hours of behind the wheel and 10 hours of classroom. The Department of Education requires 20 hours of classroom and 20 hours of behind the wheel. Because where these drivers are driving and what they're having to interact with traffic and construction and impatient people, we believe giving them double the requirement is what's in the best interest of students. Getting back to your question, that's where this plan comes in. So the first week of school, this is reviewed with the students. Twice a year, per Nevada statute, the driver must perform an evacuation drill with their students. Drivers also receive, besides their initial training, they receive 10 hours of annual in-service training. You are actually sitting in one of those rooms where drivers can come and receive training and support at any time, whether they're having a student management issue, whether they've been involved in an accident, or they have a question or concern regarding pre-trip.
To this day, do you know where it's on?
So far, approximately, it's right around the 400 mark. And again, going back to my definition of an accident, a cone blows, a construction cone gets blown into a school bus, that's an accident. So serious, preventable accidents, of the 400, probably closer to 10% of those were actually preventable.
And is that from the beginning of the to the kids? Is
Th-
that correct?
This is the guide for the driver, yes.
And the
Student
driver
transport,
that's state textbook.
yes. Along with all of those other documents, they get procedure handbook, they get an out-of-service handbook, they get a state training manual, they get copies of all the federal regulations. Anything and everything that a driver needs as a resource, we are ready to give them.
We would ask that if you use that number, the 400, please make sure that you explain the range as it relates to accidents, from a minor mirror bump to a cone to them striking a curve as they're turning. So make sure that you fully explain what our range is and when we're talking about accidents.
And also,
Okay.
Ms.
We have about 1,750 buses, and about 1,600 of those buses are out on the road every day, transporting students to and from school, to and from activities. So I'm glad you asked that, because about 3 years ago, as we're growing, we realized that the drivers need more on the road behind the wheel support as they gain seniority, to ensure that they don't become compliant or complacent. And that's where my team comes in over here. I have 19 transportation investigators and 10 individuals that I call my task force, that their sole responsibility is to be out in the field with the drivers, behind the wheel with the drivers, and providing support on that bus. The incident that happened yesterday, there is support on that bus by a field supervisor today, and that support will stay there until it no longer is needed by the students, by the driver, by the school. They don't have to take driving courses, no, but the in-service requirement is about defensive driving. We review accident procedures, we review pre-trip procedures, and we review student management and transporting students with disabilities procedures. It's a constant refresher. And then, like I said, this room is open up to the drivers throughout the week to be able to come and get assistance whenever needed. He said 1,585, and we have 51 vacancies.
We've also heard that rumor. We have not been able to verify at this point. That would be something that would be contained in Las Vegas Metropolitan's report at the end of the investigation. Within 45 minutes, we started separating students, started gathering parents. So the first call came out within the first 30 minutes from the school and transportation. So we started gathering names. You go through a process of finding out which bus stop kids were coming from and how many kids should have been on that bus, so you start doing a numbers check.
I've been in this department going on 24 years, and I have not seen what I seen yesterday.
And I'm in year 26, and I can't think of...
It obviously is very emotional. I believe in what we call bus angels, because it takes a lot to do what we do on any given day. Parents, the community, they trust us for the safety and well-being of their children. And on our side, we do our very best to meet their expectations. And so it was a tough day. A lot of people last night, drivers alike, myself, administration, we lost a lot of sleep last night because we are still hoping and praying that the child that is still in critical condition survives and is able to proceed on with a quality of life. We truly care. I know sometimes just how we get busy, it has that perception.
She can't get into the specifics of what the driver did. That will be a part of the final investigation. She can give you an overall view of how the drivers do respond.
So for the driver to be able to clear the radio, their first two words they're to say break, break. That's telling all the other drivers to stop radio transmission and I need help. And it is my understanding that that driver's first words out of her mouth was, I need help, my kids need help. Please come help my kids. Remember, this is shocking. It took tremendous force to knock that bus on its side. So the driver is trying to battle that adrenaline, is battling that shock, and is able to get to the two-way radio and be able to call for help for her kids. It's amazing.
Or help my kids.
Yes. I will be reaching out to that driver, finding out what that driver needs. Our typical transitioning a driver back in behind the wheel of a bus is when they're ready to come back, they spend a day with the driver instructor. Based on that experience, if they're ready to get behind the wheel of a bus and transport kids, they are not alone their first day. They have somebody with them. If they want somebody with them the second day, we transition them in until they say, I got this, I'm comfortable, I'm good.
We have time for one or two more questions, and then at the end of this, we want to give you guys an opportunity to take a look at a bus from the inside.
So this route is currently what we call an open route, where there is not a permanent driver assigned at the moment. But like I indicated, the extra board drivers are typically our senior drivers. They're proficient in the geographic area that they're transporting in. And we have a extra board driver that is assigned to this route that will continue this route between now through the end of the school year. Again, I believe in providing continuity and consistency for those students because of what those students have experienced. Senior drivers is, in my opinion, anybody over that 5-year mark. Now, we can have drivers that come from other counties that have driving experience, and maybe they don't have 5 years with us. But 5 years behind the wheel, it allows you to see a little bit of everything at that point. Maybe not all of it, but it allows you to be proficient. Again, going back to our training, nobody gets behind the wheel of a bus unless they meet our standards. So 5 years experience or not, if you don't meet our standards, you don't drive students.